Howdy, team. Happy Thursday. I hope y'all are having a good week. You're looking forward to a good weekend. It's almost football season. Rangers are streaking. Life is good. But more so, and we can say this in all sincerity, God really is good. And God is good even when none of those things are true. When the Rangers stink, when it's not football season, when it's crazy hot outside, when stuff is happening that we just don't like, God is still good. And that's what we're talking about this weekend, all weekend. That's what Eric's going to be preaching about in his sermon. And so let me just encourage you. You should be, but definitely, obviously, be in the worship service. You will hear him deal with some of the harder to understand concepts about the goodness of God. But that's going to be a great setup for us as we go into connection groups where we get to talk about God's goodness. I'm thrilled that we're talking about the prodigal son. That might feel like a pretty odd passage for us to be looking at when we're talking about God's goodness. But if you'll stop and contemplate it, and that's what I had to do this afternoon for a little while, it actually makes perfect sense that this is what we would look at. And I want you just to look at the basic premise of the prodigal son, and is this. You have two children, neither one of who are particularly good, and this father figure who is very, very good. And he's very, very good from the standpoint that he has a son who is rebellious from right out the gate, and the father displays kindness and love towards that son, regardless of which. And then that same son who later on, when he's blown his inheritance, comes home, and the father had every single right to ignore him, tell him to go away, and he didn't. He continued to display his love and his kindness to him. And then to his other child, who was incredibly judgmental, although his judgments weren't entirely off. And in fact, if this happened in your family, you would maybe very well respond the same way. I don't mind telling you, there's been any number of times where I've looked on not my second youngest brother, my youngest brother, rather poorly at times because of just bonehead decisions he's made. Not that I haven't ever made bonehead decisions, of course. But I've taken the older brother stance in the prodigal son too. And so the father has this son who's just almost kind of cruel and definitely not loving towards his other child. And the father continues to love that son also. The only way that you can describe that scenario would be not just that God is loving, because he is the father in this situation, but that he is good, and he's good all the time, even and especially when we don't deserve it. And that's the point that we want the students to understand this week. Because the truth is we don't deserve God's goodness. We don't ever deserve God's goodness. The truth is all that we deserve is just a good whooping. Because of the choices that we have made, because of the choices all of creation has made, from the very start all the way back to Adam and Eve. God has owed us nothing but judgment. The laws of God said that the wages of sin is death. So because of our choices, we deserve death. We certainly don't deserve God's help in any single way, but God, in his loving kindness, chose to make the sacrifice that was required for us to be forgiven so that we could maintain a relationship with him. If that's not goodness, I don't know what is. That's certainly real love. And so help the students see that. That's the point of the prodigal son. That's the point of the entire scriptures, that God made us. He in his goodness made us in goodness. We chose to reject that goodness, but God in his goodness forgave us and made us part of his family once again. It's an amazing thing. Let me give you 3 passages that I think would be helpful for you to look at and think about and use with the students. I want you to look at Psalm 136. Specifically, watch for the phrase, his love endures forever. And I want you to think about that word endures. His love doesn't exist forever, although it does. It endures. Literally, think about, his love puts up with us forever. That's a pretty amazing thing. Also, look at Psalm 145, verse 9. That's the passage at the end of the video you see, and that's just that God is good to all of mankind, even though, again, we don't deserve it. And then the last one, look at Matthew chapter 7, verse 11. This is Jesus talking, and Jesus makes this statement. He says, "You who are evil still give good gifts to your children. how much better is your Father in heaven than you? Just an interesting thought to contemplate as Jesus playing the comparison game just to help people understand the goodness of his Father. Might be worth bringing up with our students as well. Guys, I love y'all. Excited about hanging out with you on Sunday. I hope this has been encouraging. Really, think about God's goodness just to you personally this weekend. Don't be afraid to bring that up to the students, and then have fun asking these questions. See y'all later. Bye.